Hey everybody, Crow back again, finally with another
Questions! I need answers!
I have about 25 questions here, I think, about thereabouts, and I'm going to divide this up into two different videos. I've been getting, some of these questions are really old. I've been getting questions since March, I think, so some of these might be outdated, but I'll still answer them anyway. But I've been typically think I can categorize these questions in three different categories. You got the gaming questions, you got the Mystery Science Theater questions, and then you've got the miscellaneous videos, which is basically everything else. I've already answered all the Mystery Science Theater questions in the videos I did about Season 11 for Mystery Science Theater. So all I have left are pretty much the gaming questions and the miscellaneous questions. And in this video I'm going to do the gaming questions, and then I'm going to film one right away doing the all the miscellaneous questions. And you know what, this is the second time I'm doing this. I actually tried to do this yesterday and I thought everything was well and good, but I went to edit the video, no sound. I'm pretty sure I'm getting sound now though. But yeah, and before I forget, if you want to ask a question, there's a link in the description below you could go to fill out a form that automatically puts the question in a singular document for me to easily read off of. So let's start with the first question here from Jacob. With the Nintendo Switch reportedly selling better than Nintendo projected, and just as a Switch owner, do you feel like the system could be a hit? Do you feel like this system could be a hit, long-lasting hit? Could be a hit, long-lasting hit for Nintendo, or just another Wii U. Welcome back, by the way. The Switch, which I have right here. I think that Nintendo's just kind of banking on the Switch. I think that typically they've had the portable system and they've had the console version, console system, and but now with the Switch they've got something that's both. So, you know, the 3DS is kind of getting up there in years. I don't think that they're going to have a successor to the 3DS. And I don't think they're going to have a real successor to the Wii U. You know, this kind of is the successor to the Wii U, but it's portable. So they've got the best of both worlds here. They've got something that's a portable system, but that also can be docked and played in the television. And that's the way I normally play this. I just have this docked and I use the Pro Controller. But like earlier today, I was out at my friend's and I just brought this along just in case, you know? So they've got something that's kind of both. So, yeah, and it's selling much better than, honestly, I think a lot of people thought it would. So, well, only time will tell. But I think that regardless of what happens, Nintendo's just kind of banking on this for their future. Just one system to go forward with. Don't have to worry about the split between the handheld and their console when they're just made something that's converging into one. So, so yeah, and I think half the problem with the Wii U is that for years, even after it came out, a lot of people just didn't know what it was. My sister had trouble understanding what the hell the Wii U was. And, yeah, and so you got the tablet, so a lot of people thought it was just a portable system. Like this is pretty much, but no, it doesn't work that way. But yeah, let's move on. Next question here is from RG. Now this is about the NES Mini. This harkens back to Nintendo and mishandling of Amiibo when they first launched. The NES Mini is a month old, and as far as that gives you an idea how old this question is. The NES Mini is months old, and as far as I know, Nintendo has yet to send out a big restock. Again, this question was asked before there was the announcement that it was being discontinued. I couldn't find one in the fall, and I can't find one now. I am only going to pay, he said play, but pay MSRP, and I'm not feeding it to scalpers. Why does Nintendo always seem to do this? Do they honestly think they will make too many and people won't back, or are they trying to create a craze? Now, I know that a lot of people say that, oh, they try to limit their stock and make it harder to find, therefore more people want it. I honestly don't think that's the case. I honestly don't think that Nintendo wants scalpers buying them up and reselling them for an up price, because that does screw over their consumers. And honestly, they're making less money doing that too. Whereas if they just had enough stock, they would actually make more money because they would be able to sell more of these. And of course, we've heard that this is being discontinued, and I've heard reasons and everything for that. But honestly, from what I heard, is they really didn't think that people would be buying this left and right. They intended this to be kind of on the store shelves, and somebody walking by, just a casual consumer, not a gamer at all, would look at it and say, hey, I remember the NES, and this is only $60. I'm going to pick this up and take it to the register. Unfortunately, this never made it to where it would just sit on the shelves for people to see it. It was all the hardcore gamers that were like all into Nintendo collecting that wound up buying this. It was the scalpers that were buying it to feed into those people willing to pay 3 times the normal amount of price for this. The target consumer that this was actually aimed for, that Nintendo wanted to buy this, never actually saw this on the shelves. Now, I think that's just poor management on their part. But yeah, I would say that, is it the scalpers' fault that they're selling this online? I don't think so. You know whose fault it is? It's the people actually paying those prices. This is not worth a penny over $60, and I'll tell you why. Again, this is an official product, right? So a collector, I could see buying this. Maybe somebody that's not really into gaming but had an NES back in the day. Oh yeah, let's buy this and play those 30 games on it. But they weren't expecting the hardcore collectors, and honestly, that just means that Nintendo doesn't have a clue who's out there buying their products, I think. But yeah, I think it's not the scalpers' fault. It's the people who are actually paying that amount of money. I checked recently to see how much they're selling for on eBay, and yeah, $170 something actually sold. These are what has actually sold for and paid for. And then people are just buying these and modding them and selling them at a slightly even higher price, maybe around $220 or something. So it's honestly not Nintendo's. Well, it's kind of Nintendo's fault for not really realizing who wants to buy it, but it is the people that are actually paying that amount, legitimizing. And then when people see that people are paying that much for an NES Classic, then they're going to try and get it even more because they know they can make 3 times the profit on it now. So that's what's kind of screwing things over, is the dumbasses that are actually paying that amount of money for this. Also, why is $60 a good price for that? Well, for about $60, you could build yourself a decent little console yourself, Raspberry Pi. If you buy all the components together, get a decent shell, SD card, power adapter, you're going to wind up paying around $60. And there you go. You got something that can emulate a good number of consoles, not just NES. In store more. I think this has only got like 300 megs on it, but you can put like a couple gig SD card in there, emulate multiple systems, put in Launchbox, and that's something that I think I want to do. In fact, I'm gonna check to see what kind of spending money I have. I might want to do that now. I might want to I just need time to kind of mess with it. Get yourself a USB gamepad controller, or maybe even a Bluetooth one. We get some. I think is it Raspberry? Yeah, it does have Bluetooth. No, maybe I don't remember. I guess it maybe depends on what version you get. But get yourself a Bluetooth controller, and damn, you've got yourself your own little mini emulation box, and it costs you about the same as this. So. Yeah, this to me, the reason I wanted this though, it's more of a collector's thing for me to have this. Now I have modded this and I've put, a decent number of games on it, because, why not? If I can do it and it's so easy to do, why would I only be stuck with 30 with this thing? But I just like the fact that this is a little NES that plays the games I used to play when I was a kid. So, but yeah, not the scalpers ruining it for everybody. It's the people paying those prices that's ruining it for everybody. So let's move on. Next question is from Mega Man Universe. In the same way Nintendo released the 2DS out of the 3DS, do you see Nintendo ever releasing a home console version of the Switch? I honestly don't see that happening, even though they would be able to create something like this at a cheaper price because you wouldn't have to worry about the screen. It would just be, I guess, a block and a Pro Controller. That's all it really needs to be. And honestly, I would be happy for something like that. But there are certain games. There's actually one game out there already that requires the touchscreen, so you can't even play it in dock mode. But yeah, you could probably get around that with not even buying the game. But the real reason I don't think Nintendo would do that is because I think they're trying to consolidate all their products into just one product. Like I was saying earlier, they don't want to have. Well, again, they did this with the 3DS. They have the 3DS and then the new 3DS. They seem to do that with the portables, where they have multiple different colors and variations. They're even coming out with a new Nintendo 2DS, which nobody asked for as far as I'm aware, and I don't even understand what the purpose of that is, because I thought the whole purpose of the 2DS was that it was for kids, and it was like one big giant slate, so no hinges that can break, something that's a little bit more durable. But this new Nintendo 2DS has a hinge in it, and I think, does it have bigger screens or something? I don't know. I really don't know what the point of that is, especially since there's only one game that is necessary for the new Nintendo 3DS. So I really don't know what Nintendo's thinking, where they'll they discontinue this because they say they're low on resources, but then put out a product that I don't think anybody's asking for. Honestly, going back to this, one of the reasons I think they pulled this at about the time they discontinued about the time the Switch is being made is because they were afraid they didn't want this outselling this. They didn't want this outselling this, and that way people would be saying, hey, the NES Mini outsold the Switch, because you know what, they're doing that now. Even though, you know, the monthly sales for the PS4 and the Xbox One, they've been out there for a while and they're slowing down. Even though that's the case, there's articles out there saying, hey, the NES Mini outsold the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, and that's their headline, you know, because all news is sensationalized now. But yeah, that's why I don't think we'll see multiple versions of this. I think they just want to stick with one. That way they've got one product. Moving on, next question is from Elite. What were some of your favorite sit-down racing games in the arcade? I used to play quite a number of them, you know, like Hydro Thunder and Stun Runner, but I think the ones I played the most were Virtua Racing, definitely, and Daytona USA 2. Virtua Racing was like the first, you know, to me it ran really smooth, and I thought it was really cool, the different camera angles. But honestly, I think Daytona USA 2 I played the most just because of that carnival level. I love playing that level. It would be the only thing I'd play, but I played that a lot. So I think, you know, Daytona USA 2 was my favorite out of all of them. I played newer ones. I played Mario Kart, you know, the sit-down one, and Hard Driving. But honestly, I think Daytona USA 2 was I would say that's my favorite. So let's move on. Next question is from Anon. Any fond memories of violent video game craze from the 90s? Any fond memories of the violent video game craze from the 90s? Honestly, nothing too spectacular, but I just kind of remember, you know, the first time I saw, like, Mortal Kombat, because, you know, if you think about it, even Street Fighter and Final Fight and games like that are kind of violent. Any game where you have guys beating up other guys, that's kind of violent. But I think what you're really talking about is the, like, Mortal Kombat that had the blood and the gore with the digitized characters. And the first time I saw that, I was like, that was something that I never expected to see. And what's funny is, like, these days you don't have arcades or anything, but like any kid could just walk into an arcade and witness these arcade games where people were like ripping each other's hearts out and stuff. Mortal Kombat 2 and you know, Mortal Kombat 3. I guess we got kind of used to it by the time Mortal Kombat 3 came out, but like I remember just standing around, you know, when Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2 were out, just standing around the arcade. There was always people playing those games, just watching it. You know, I didn't even have to play it. I was just entertained just watching that and seeing what kind of fatalities everybody knew and everything. And everything that was new was kind of shy. It's not like you could go into YouTube and just watch them all like you can now. Somebody's compiled a video of all of them. You didn't know what to expect. You had to go into maybe a video game magazine would list out what all the fatalities were, but it was a magazine. At best, there was only screenshots. But to see them in action That was really what I was like standing there waiting around for. I mean, I did play them eventually if nobody was playing them, but at the time I'm not that really good at them, but it was always more fun to watch somebody else playing the game than for me to play it myself. So yeah, let's stick with that. Move on. Next question is from Anon as well. Can somebody explain to me how a AAA game like Mass Effect Andromeda, which costs $40 million, looks the way it does and has no many bugs? I mean, so many bugs. How can a AAA game looks this bad when the games that cost far less look and play better? Let me get a quick drink here. The answer is quite simple. AAA games and indie games does not really, AAA games and / indie games is not really an indication of quality. They would like you to believe it is, but it's not. In fact, to me, a AAA game, if something claims to be a AAA game, is all hyped up and everything, I'm less inclined to get it because most game companies that pour a lot of money into a game expect a bigger return. They want their money, so they're going to be doing pre-order bonuses. They're going to have all this downloadable content that they're going to want to sell you. They're not going to want to sell you the whole game. And not only that, but the game, when they release the game, they've got a hard set release date, and they're going to release the game no matter if it's finished or not. In fact, I don't even think games have beta testers these days. I think the people that pre-order the game and play that game day one, they're the beta testers, and so long as they have their money, they will fix certain issues, and for the upcoming weeks, and then maybe they'll put out more DLC content later, and just because they're more interested in making money than making a decent game. Whereas with an indie title, they're not going to be as high of a profile, so they're going to want to try and make their game as good as possible before they release it. In most cases, I mean, there are exceptions to the rules where indie game could be really suck or whatever, but then that's a waste of your money. You're not going to be able to gain a following or something like that. Kind of like how Minecraft was, where I think that was like an indie game, but it was just so addictive to people, and it just kept getting updated. Whereas these days, Minecraft could almost be considered a AAA game, despite not really costing that much. But I mean, every system has to have Minecraft these days, right? And it's funny because I've never played it. It's not that I wouldn't be interested in it. I just think that I would spend so much time playing Minecraft that I wouldn't have time to play anything else. But yeah, to me, it's just because AAA games, they're more interested in making their money than a quality game. That's not to say that AAA games can't be fun, or they don't wind up being, having a lot of quality in the long run. But I'm just saying that it doesn't seem like it's a priority. So let's move on. Next question here from Double Dares, Mark Summers. So is VR dead already? Would it last 3 months? Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because it seems like not a whole lot of people talk about VR games that much anymore. It seemed like after the PlayStation, we had the Oculus Rift, what people talked about for a long time, waiting for it to come out. Then he had the HTC Vive, and he had the PlayStation VR. And it seems like after now that all those have been released, not a whole lot of people are talking about it. And I just think that I think that it's a little bit dead for now. But I think ultimately, even though the technology was there, it's not good enough to where the average person wants to deal with it. To give you an example, a friend of mine has the HTC Vive, and to have that and to be able to set it up and play with it, it requires a lot of money and a lot of equipment, a lot of money to buy a lot of equipment, and a huge space to be able to set it up. If you got these giant pole sensors, you gotta set up everywhere, and you gotta have the computer. You've got to put on this helmet, and I think it's just too much for people that just want to play a game. you have to go into this ritual to set it up and everything. And he's done it for a couple parties, and I played it, and honestly, I'm just not as immersed as a lot of people are. I don't know, maybe it was the game I played or whatever. I just played a simple game and called it Counting. It was pretty funny, I gotta admit, though. And it was cool, but still felt like I was standing there holding controllers in a living room, despite what I was seeing. So, it's not worth the price of admission for me. Where I think it'll die down a bit, and, you know, as technology goes on forward, I think maybe we will get something, but I think it's several years away. I think what it needs to be is a self-contained unit, a helmet that you just put on, and that's it. You know, you got the earphones, you got this, you got the battery that can power the whole thing for several hours at least. I think that's where we need to be, and the technology's not there. We need more technology to be able to do that. Yeah, with what we have now, it's just a lot of setup, a lot of cables. Even when he set up the HTV Vive, he did it in a living room, and that worked fine. But we tried to do it in a clubhouse, and there was so much sunlight that interrupted with it, and it didn't work. And then we all know that the PlayStation VR isn't as high caliber with it. You can't walk. You can. I think it just doesn't work as well as. I never tried it, but from what I understand, like if you turn around, it doesn't seem quite right or something. It's very limited in it's more limited in its motion. Not to say that it's not cool or anything, but I think it needs more time for technology to advance a bit more before it becomes really something the average consumer will want. It's also got to be cheaper, a lot cheaper. Let's move on. Next question from Bill Solo 97. Has your Switch warped or bended due to heat? You mean bent? After the recent reports, I'm scared as hell to play mine for more than 3 hours in a row now. Well, this is my Switch. It's not bent, as you can see. I have played this for several hours playing Zelda, so no issues there. I did hear about, sort of about the bending issues. I never read up about it, but I never heard about it again either. I don't know if there's something that might have caused that in the situations where they were reporting it. Now, I will say that when I was playing this, I realized that the heat sink up here, air is blowing out of here. There's a fan in here too. So, in those instances where it got too hot too and it bent, is it an instance where maybe the fan stopped in there for whatever reason? Is it maybe this was being blocked? I don't know the details. Was it in handheld mode when it bent? Was it in the dock? I don't know if it outputs more or less heat when it's in the dock. I just don't know the details, but no, this thing hasn't warped. None of my friends have warped. I don't know anybody personally that has had theirs warped, and I'm not really hearing many more reports of it, so maybe they were just isolated incidents, and honestly, that's not one thing I would be worried about, you know, preventing you from buying it. And like I said, I play this mostly in the dock anyway, so I don't know if that's the issue that was preventing it or causing it to warp. Who knows? Well, if I read the article, I might know, but I didn't. So I'm just telling you that mine didn't warp. So let's move on. Next question is from Day of Daniel. A couple of years ago, you answered the DLC question for me and used Capcom as an example how a company can make DLC horrible. I just want to point out for fun, Street Fighter V is a year old and still has no arcade mode. Capcom last spring promised us that they were adding an arcade mode last year. They never did. Not really a question, I just want to get your state on the current state of Street Fighter V and Capcom not really getting a care, even giving a care. Thanks! Yeah, but, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that because they're still releasing... Are they still releasing characters for that game? I thought that there's a lot of fighting games coming out, and I would be interested in them if it weren't for the fact that there's extra characters that are downloadable. And to me, that's kind of unacceptable to do that. I mean, Smash Brothers is really like one of the few ones that can get away with it. But for like most fighting games, the serious fighting games, I would think that they'd want all the balancing issues, all the characters set, and balance them all out before they release it. I remember that was one of the reasons why Street Fighter II had so many incremental releases. The real reason there was a Street Fighter 2 and then a Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition and Turbo and everything is because those boards were getting hacked. And there were all these bootleg additional versions, so Capcom updated themselves, added in more characters and rebalanced stuff. But if they're just, releasing one character, working on one character at a time, I don't know if that causes, like, these balancing issues between characters. So what are they doing? Releasing a character and then finding out these balancing issues, and then having to update it again to fix those issues before releasing another character. The whole thing just seems not right. And I'm interested in Street Fighter V, but I'm certainly not going to buy it unless they have a physical version, a physical final version of the game that I can, like the final version, like they wind up doing with Street Fighter 4. I didn't buy that until the PS3 version came out. It was Ultra Street Fighter 4. It was like the final version of whatever. I also have it on PC too, but I might buy Street Fighter 5 on PC if it goes down really cheap. Because that would be digital. And to me, if it's a digital game, it's okay if it needs to be updated digitally. But, yeah, but the fact that there's no arcade mode, that's one of the main things that people complained about when it was first released, wasn't it? And they still haven't done that? I really haven't been keeping track of that. I'm just kind of waiting for another... I know that originally they said, we're not releasing another version of Street Fighter V, it's just going to be updates. But I think that they're going to go back on their word sometime in the future, and there will be another version of Street Fighter V out there. The final version, whenever they finally finish it. But yeah, it's kind of funny how they release a game, and a year later it's still not finished. Like, only in the internet age will that happen. Only in the digital age can you release a game and not finish it until years later. Ridiculous. So let's move on. Next question here is from Anon. Man, I hate questions like this, but if you were stuck on an island with electricity and all the amenities, but just had one video game console and you were allowed one game of your choice, what game would that be that you would play for the rest of your life? And he might have asked this because Michael B., the Game Genie, had a Top 3 Tuesday, which was, what would be your top 3 games you would bring if you were stuck on a deserted island? And I kind of made a comment, and this was on Twitter, so I don't even know if he saw this. I made a comment on Twitter that said, if you were stuck on a deserted island, how would you have even electricity to play any games? And even if you had a handheld, you'd run out of batteries eventually. And not be able to recharge it. So what's the point of bringing anything? And if you knew you were getting stuck on a desert island in order to bring this stuff in advance, you wouldn't go, would you? I mean, I think a more accurate... And it's here, if you have electricity and all the amenities, why wouldn't you... wouldn't one of those amenities be, internet connection? And you could just say, hey everybody, I'm stuck on this island, get me off of it, instead of just playing games for the rest of your life. Let me tweak that question to make it a little bit more sense. If you were being held captive, and they said, hey, you know what, we're going to be nice, we're going to give you one video game system and one game to play, what do you want? I guess the real question is if you have internet connection or not, to be able to play with other people online. Because, I wouldn't mind playing something like Mario Kart or what else? Like Rocket League. That would be pretty cool to play. You get pretty good at that. But if you don't have internet connection and you can't have a PC, because if I could have a PC, which is not a video game console, I might want to play like Roller Coaster Tycoon. But I'm gonna go with the Wii U, and this would work either way. With internet connection, without internet connection, go with the Wii U, go with Super Mario Maker, because, if I do have the online ability, I'd be able to play a lot of courses, people are making. You could just play this, for the rest of your life. And even if you don't have an internet option, you could make courses. You could at least be creative and make stuff, for the rest of your life. You might get sick of it. That's the problem. The real problem is that, I almost don't even care how into a game you are. Most people will get sick of it eventually. So, yeah, I'm more into variety. I like to play a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I think I would still get sick of this eventually, but I think it's my best bet. And I think that's the last question from now. Yeah, the next one is miscellaneous questions, so I'll end this video now, and next video we'll be answering the miscellaneous questions. See y'all then. Bye.